Yeah, good evening. I'm just touching base, just checking, see whether or not you're actually able to hear me. Jennifer?
So is this the new thing?
I can hear you, Steve. Jennifer, are you able to hear me?
Our mics are going through.
Yeah, I'll mute this here in a minute. Yeah, Jennifer, are you able to hear me?
I know why. Stereo. Yeah, right.
Good evening, Jennifer, are you able to hear me? Good evening, Jennifer, can you hear me? Can you try speaking?
I said. He just looked at me, shook his head. Yeah.
Jennifer, can you hear me speaking? Jennifer, can you hear me speaking? You want me to log out, Steve, and then re-log in?
I think she might be away from her computer.
I don't know.
Oh, I'm here. If you guys are waiting for me, I'm sorry.
Oh, yeah, we were just trying to see whether or not you could hear us.
I'm terribly sorry. I had my volume off on my computer. I apologize.
Okay. I think what we'll do, Jennifer, is we'll go ahead and get the meeting started. The chair will open the meeting. We'll go through some housekeeping things, and then we'll introduce the case. I'll do a short presentation, and then I'll ask you to give some updates as well on the case, and then they'll go into board discussion. Okay?
All right.
So I'm going to mute this for now.
Sounds good.
Ready?
Yep.
The Wednesday, August 23rd, 2023 meeting of the Mount Pleasant Zoning Board of Appeals is now called to order. Mr. Kinch, could you please call roll?
Stressman,
Present.
McGuire,
Present.
Friedrich,
Here.
Orlick,
Here.
and Raisinin.
Here.
We have a quorum, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Would you like to welcome our crossover member?
I would like to welcome our crossover member again, Corey Friedrich from the Planning Commission. And then also welcome aboard, and we thank you. How many years has this been now?
I don't know.
I've lost track too, so we do appreciate it. And anything you want to share at this time regarding what the Planning Commission is working on, or?
No, not really.
Okay, all right. Had to give you that opportunity. The other thing too is I needed to let you know that our alternate, Aaron White, has stepped down. He is relocated out of the city and is no longer eligible for the board. So Commission will be doing another an appointment to this ZBA at some point in time, so we'll have that board alternate. That's all I have at this time.
All right, the next order of business is the election of a chair and a vice chair. I will let Mr. Kinch open the floor and conduct nominations for chair at this time.
At this time, we would open the floor for nominations for a vice chair. Nominations for a vice chair.
I would like to nominate Commissioner Orlick.
Do we have support?
I'll support that.
Do we have any other nominations? Seeing none, we would ask for the vote for Commissioner Orlick as vice chair. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. I'll turn it over to, I'll open the floor now for nominations for the chair.
I nominate Commissioner Reisinen to continue as chair.
We have a nomination for Commissioner Raisinin as the chair. Do we have support?
I'll support that.
Do we have any other nominations for chair? Seeing none, we'll close nominations. All those in favor for Commissioner Raisinin as the chair for the Zoning Board of Appeals for 2023, we would ask that you vote yes. All those in favor?
Yes?
Yes.
Yes. Those opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you. Thank you all. The next item on our agenda is the approval of the agenda. Does anyone have any changes that they would like to make to our agenda this evening?
I have a few minor typos.
The agenda.
The agenda, I don't have typos on the agenda. Okay.
That's all right. Seeing no changes to the agenda, do I have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Do I have a support?
Support.
Thank you. All in favor of approving the agenda for tonight, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. All right, now we will move on to the approval of our minutes from November 16th, 2022. I believe Vice Chair Orlick has a few changes to our minutes.
Prematurely, but we'll
That's
go
all
right away.
right.
Okay, page 3, the fifth paragraph. I think at the end of that, the first line of the fifth paragraph, it should be the impervious surface rather
Yep.
than to impervious surface. Okay, and then 3 lines from the bottom, BB explained that the post, I think that's extraneous to there that we don't need. And then finally on page 4, roughly in the middle of the page, Friedrich stated that it seems, again, an extraneous to, that it seems that to comply with the code. So we have a couple extra twos there.
Are there any other changes to the minutes? Hearing none, do I have a motion to approve the minutes as amended by Vice Chair Orlick?
So moved.
Do I have a support?
Support.
Thank you. All in favor of approving the minutes as amended by Vice Chair Orlick, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much. The next item on our agenda tonight are communications. Are there any communications to report, Mr. Kench?
I don't have anything to report at this time.
All right. The next item on our agenda is our public comment portion. This is the time during the hearing where the floor is open to anyone who wishes to come forward and speak. We reserve this time for comments not related to a case being presented this evening. Is there anyone who would like to address the board? Seeing no one and no one online, I'm going to close our public comment. And now we will move into the public hearing portion. We have one case to present to the board this evening. And before we begin, I will present our board procedures. In accordance with our established bylaws and board procedures, the appellant will be called forward to state their case. Following the appellant's presentation, the public hearing will then be opened. Anyone who wishes to address the board will come forward, sign in, and state their name and address, which will be made part of our permanent record. Each person will be allowed to speak for 5 minutes. In addition, each person will be allowed to address the board only once unless they have new and pertinent information to share. The public hearing will then be closed. Any correspondence received regarding the case will be presented to the board. The board will then enter into discussion. All motions will be made in the positive to avoid confusion. This does not necessarily mean the person making the motion is in favor of the request. It will take 3 positive votes to approve the request. Any request which is denied shall not be brought back to the board for a period of 1 year. The board reserves the right to ask questions of the appellant at any point throughout the hearing. We have a quorum this evening, and so our case will be heard. Mr. Kench, could you please introduce our case tonight, ZBA 23-02?
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is the first case that we'll be presenting this year, I believe. And so we've got it identified as case number 22-02. Our first case, as you recall, withdrew their application prior to being presented to the board. The case that we're looking at this evening has been filed by Jennifer Wolf on behalf of Discount Tire through It's Permittable. They are located at 4113 North Swan Street in Covington, Georgia. They're looking at a variance request under section 154.414B for the new Discount Tire location that's currently under construction at the corner of Olympic Drive and South Mission Street. This section here that we referenced talks about a sign type reference as a band sign under our sign code, and it does restrict the height of that sign type to 3 feet. The property is zoned CD5 urban character. It's already went through the planning commission and has been approved under an SUP-22-02 and through a site plan approval 22-02. The building is placed 16 feet from the front property line, has a height of about 24 to 28 feet overall. Just give you a sense of the space that we'll be placing the signs. All adjoining properties are zoned CD5 with compatible uses in the district being commercial in nature. And then to the west, we have university zone property. Future land use is mixed use low density, and it allows a number of commercial uses along with residential opportunities on the upper floors. I have a number of sign types here that I'm going to share with you. The one that's in consideration this evening, the ordinance recognizes as a band sign. It does limit it to no more than 3 feet in height. Planning Commission a while back made some changes to this sign type and allowed it not only on the facade, which would be the main wall facing Mission Street, but also allowed it on all the elevations. So effectively, they could have 4 signs on the building at a height of 3 feet under this band sign type. You'll see on the band sign type over here, we have, let me get this. In this area, you'll see where the zoning districts where these are located. Every one of the sign types that's noted in the CD5 district could be displayed on this property. There is no overall area requirements that have to be met. One of the things that the ordinance does talk about it does restrict any type of internal illumination or backlit type signage. Any lighting would have to be external. You've probably seen a number of businesses that are using either the LED bars or individual type shepherd hook type lights, so which has been pretty consistent. This is the site plan. I've taken some of the numbering off and focused primarily on signs A, B, and C as just presented in the applicant's site plan. The others are simply address numbers, and those are permitted on all elevations. There again, the building is at 16 feet from the front property line. Olympic Drive is to your north, and to the south is where we have one of the first band sign that would exceed the 3 feet in height. And we'll show you those numbers here in just a second. And then as well as B, which would be your facade, which is the wall facing the primary street, which is Mission in this case, and then the rear wall was C. Nothing is planned for the north elevation. These are the sign types there again that we're looking at. The note I included here was on the internal illumination. Sign ordinance that went into effect probably in the last 5 years has restricted that lighting to external only. Overall height of the sign as we do our display, this is how we would measure that based on our definition of display area, which tells us that we have about a total of 98 square feet, and based on the math that's required on the south elevation, they could display 99 square feet. So they're within the area requirements, they just merely exceed the 3 foot in height. The dimension that we're looking at is 5'7" 3/8 overall. That's how we would measure that sign height, okay? The rest of the signs on the other 2 walls would meet the areas because the walls are essentially longer than what it is on the south wall. There again, height variance would be needed. And as we go through the signs ordinance, I just want to let you know that all these sign types are permitted in conjunction with the band signs that are here. They can also display a monument sign, which the code would allow that to be placed at the front property line. 18 square feet of display area, which could be visible both from the north and the south traffic flow. 1 per frontage, maximum overall height is 6 feet, and the letter height is 12 inches. They could place a blade sign on the facade, which would be your front elevation or your front wall facing the Mission Street. 8 square feet gives us some height restrictions on sidewalks and so on. Given that we're 16 feet away, the height restrictions shouldn't be a problem, but there again, another 8 square feet. Large projection sign, which is probably one of the larger sign types that we have, allows 50 square feet. 50 square feet could be displayed on both sides of the sign and be visible from northbound and southbound traffic. It allows a depth of 18 inches on the cabinets, 7 foot over a sidewalk, which this shouldn't be an issue, but there again, it is another sign type that the applicant may consider. A wall sign. A wall sign under the description here talks about the wall facing a secondary frontage. When we have secondary frontage to the north part of the site, which is Olympic Drive, although there's no signs being presented at that location or being considered at that site, they allow you 32 square feet of display area. There is no height restrictions on that sign type, but it is one that could be used on Olympic Drive to gain some additional visibility from northbound traffic heading south, traffic heading south. Clearance requirements 4 feet, depth is 3 inches. There again, any lighting would be external. And then our sign code also allows the glazing on the building on all 4 walls to be 33% of the glazing. And there's one other sign type that I'll have in the overall calculation for the site, which is a pole sign. There again, that sign could be no more than 6 feet in height. It allows 12 square feet of display area, and that could be installed on the front part of the site as well. And this diagram here shows that there's an opportunity for just under 700 square feet of signage, in addition to some of the 33% glazing that could be provided for additional sign opportunities as well for the applicant. And I'm going to back up and give you an example of here. I've just simply showed you of a possibility to keep the increased font height that the applicant has talked about in the application. If the tire was presented out with the discount in the long configuration here, that entire sign height could be 3 feet, and that sign could be meet the sign requirements for the city. Okay, so I went through a lot of sign information here. We have the applicant's information, and I can bring that up on the screen if need be. Any questions for me at this time?
Just make sure I understand this, Brian. So what the applicant is really requesting is a height almost double what the ordinance allows. You said 5.7 and the ordinance allows 3. Is that correct?
5'7" inches, 5'7" and 3/8 of it. We cap it off at 3 feet.
Yeah.
In my report, I noted that we've had a number of other large chains businesses that have come in. We went through this exercise. Typically, we go through and we try to figure out what sign opportunities they have that they can do and make adjustments, that type of thing, so that it would comply with the zoning.
Okay.
And we have a number of examples out there now. Okay.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions for Mr. Kinch? Seeing none, thank you, Mr. Kinch, for presenting our case. At this point, we will call on our representative, Ms. Wolf, to present the case for Discount Tire, and she is here with us via Zoom tonight, so.
Just real quick, I have their application here. If we need to reference any of their documents as well, just let me know and I can move this around for you.
Okay. Ms. Wolf, please present your case.
Good evening, Madam Chairman and board members. Thank you for allowing me to present to you this evening. As stated for the record, my name is Jennifer Wolf. I'm the applicant representative for Walton Signage, sign manufacturer, and Discount Tire.
Yeah, Ms. Wolf, can you hear me?
Yes, can you hear me?
Just a second, let me get this, let me get it. Try that. Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Let's be on mute here. We'll get you going.
Yeah, let's try that. Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Let's try that.
I can hear you.
All right.
Yeah, go ahead, and if you'd like, just present your case at this time.
Wonderful. Good evening, board members. Thank you for allowing me to present to you this evening. For the record, my name is Jennifer Wolf. I am the applicant representative for Walton Signage, the sign manufacturer, and Discount Tire, the tenant owner. For the record, our office address is 4113 North Swan Street, Covington, Georgia, 30014. We are here this evening to humbly present our request to exceed the signage allowances per your city code. While I understand that sign variance requests could be a sensitive subject of discussion, professionally speaking as a consultant, I'm sympathetic to the request being made this evening, and it's my hope you will be too. I'm not here to request an absorbent amount of signage based on corporate greed. I'm here to merely share that Discount Tire is undergoing a re-image for their branding nationwide, and that the design for their branding is not compliant with your code for letter height and for the purpose and intent of legibility at a distance of 100 feet or more from various viewing points, that a special exception should be considered. I know staff has provided their recommendations, and while I can appreciate many of the suggestions and recommendations made, I would like to point out that Discount Tire would not be of benefit or would not be in compliant with their own branding standards put in place. The new branding standards were established well before our application to the city. So the intent for a variance was not on purpose to gain larger signage than allowed. It's a product of those changes and changes made to the sign ordinance as well, since the cap letter height was added. In my application request, I spoke regarding no provisions found for a stack letter set. I do agree with staff that consideration for all lettering, upper and lowercase devices or insignia logos were definitely considered and well thought out. But again, regarding the stacked lettering, there are no provisions, and thus leads me to ask to allow something taller for a combined letter set greater than 3 feet in height. I also appreciate that city staff reference to several national chains located in Mount Pleasant that were able to comply with the same code. However, being familiar with many of these national retailers through past variances as well, and other experiences in the sign industry, I know firsthand that a lot of these companies, true national branding standards are all a linear layout. And the only time a stacked copy has been used has been when the facade did not allow for a linear layout to be used. Hobby Lobby is a good example of this. If you Google any of these national chain branding images, you will see the same information that I'm sharing with you this evening. Staff has recommended altering the national branding standards for Discount Tire to a linear layout using their new font. Again, while it's greatly appreciated that staff took the time to do this, it alters their branding standards. Should the board deny our request to increase the letter height for the proposed signage, Discount Tire will comply with a smaller set within those guidelines of the cap letter height at 3 feet. However, this will ultimately provide a reduced visibility and be a visual blight to the development. In other words, it would reflect the size of a postage stamp on an envelope. To put this in better perspective, the address numbers on the Discount Tire store are 12 inches tall. To comply with the city's current sign ordinance for a combined letter set stacked copy height, not to exceed 3 feet, the word discount would be 9 inches larger than the 12-inch address numbers, and the word tire would be even smaller than the address numbers at 9 7/8 of an inch in height. Again, the address numbers is 12 inches in height. It's not a very big sign for a storefront that is 117 feet wide on the side elevation, the main elevation facing Mission Street. The smaller elevation is 64 foot wide on what would be considered technically the front elevation. I would like to point out that we are also complying with the no illumination requirement, which is a deviation from the internal illumination that is a standard practice for Discount Tire signs, national branding program. Discount Tire is not requesting or planning to use most of the available signage allowance that is allowed for this property by your ordinance. The reason being is that this is not a part of their branding standards. They do not offer those types of signage as their branding standards. While the square footage that we are allowed to have is an absorbent quantity, we are just not utilizing all of that square footage. Just to reiterate, it has never been Discount Tire intention to design signage specifically for this site, just to exceed your allowances and to apply for variances. Variances are costly, time consuming, and there's no guarantee of a positive outcome. If anything, the linear layout provides Discount Tire with more square footage and also makes the signs appear larger on the building than when you combine and stack the letter set. So going bigger for maximum branding opportunities really was never the intent. Also, they chose not to use a ground sign, even though it is available to them. My point in keeping within the branding standards has always been the intent for Discount Tire. The variance request is also for 3 wall signs when 4 is allowed. The purpose of this request is to allow the best visibility for vehicular traffic traveling on Mission Street from 2 different points of view and for vehicular traffic on Olympic Drive. The goal is to limit the different styles and quantity of various signage that is allowed by code to just reduce signage clutter overall. Lastly, I believe that the point of a variance is the opportunity to ask the board for special permissions and or approvals when or where there are unique situations or extraordinary circumstances available. It is my hope that I've presented these specifics to you this evening and you find the proposed signage to be favorable to the development and to the community. However, the proposed size of 5'7" is not sufficient. We do have a smaller letter set that falls within the same branding allowance of a total height of 4'5" 7/8 inches. Thank you guys for the opportunity to present to you this evening. Please let me know if you have any questions.
At this time, does anyone on the, it's not any better. Test. At this time, does anyone have any questions for the applicant?
Ms. Wolf, if I understand this, you're suggesting that your national branding standards should supersede our zoning ordinance. To me, that's a marketing issue internal to your company, and that's not something that should inform our decision or inform how a zoning code is created, when the other entities in this town have all conformed to that. Am I missing something here?
Respectfully, that's not the intent or my goal of what I wanted to present to you this evening. That was not the feeling and the understanding that I wanted you guys to leave with. It was more of they only offer a stacked letter set and they do not offer a linear layout to become compliant. So our only option is to reduce the letter set that would be so small in size that it would not look proportionally scaled to the building. And that's why I referenced the different building links to show that this sign would just look like a little postage stamp on an envelope. I did not mean to convey or make the board feel that the branding standards for Discount Tire by any means should supersede your allowances. It's more of, this is what I have to work with. Can you assist me?
Yeah, I realize it's not your intent to have an issue here in Mount Pleasant, but that would probably be the effect, I think, in terms of what would happen here were this to come down in a little different way. My other question would be, one of our points of decision making is unique problems. And to me, in terms of your presentation, which was very well thought out, the only unique problem is a problem that's created by the particular marketing standards that your company has developed. That seems to be, again, an internal marketing issue rather than a zoning land use issue.
I can respect that statement, and I definitely see where you're coming from. I would say that doing variances nationwide, it is very rare for me. I've been in the industry for 22 years to to come across where there is a capped letter height, where a variance couldn't be applied for special exceptions. Most of my clients do not have stacked letter sets, and usually a capped letter height is not an issue. If anything, it is a square footage limitation and a percentage of the storefront. You're not allowed to exceed 75% of the storefront elevation for signage. So it's very rare that I'm dealing with a capped letter height and having a stacked letter set situation. It's uncommon in my practice.
Commissioner McGuire?
Yes. Anyway, yes, I have one, maybe I'm supposed to know this, but I looked through here over the weekend and didn't see it, but. So we have these signs on the building. What other signs do we have? On this what other sign? Well, she just said, you said there's no ground sign.
Yeah, the other signage is addresses and then necessary signage, I believe, for parking lots and those types of things.
So the only marketing sign are these two stacked signs, one on one side, one on Mission and one on the side street.
No,
No.
there's nothing on this, there's nothing on the side street. It is on the back wall, the front wall, the facade on Mission Street, and then the south wall.
So we have 3 stacked signs they want.
3
With a total of how many square feet?
square feet, they're at 90,
Each sign's
98 square feet.
98.
Oh, so they want 300 square feet.
Yeah.
Okay. But that's all the signs. There's no ground sign, there's no pole sign, there's no, all those other things you listed, none of that. Okay. I think that's, yeah.
Ms. Wolf, I have a question. So there are discount tire businesses in other locations that are only permitted to use monument signs. Is Discount Tires new branding going to force those people who have existing Discount Tire locations with monument signs to go before their own local zoning boards of appeal to get variances to comply with your new national branding? Or are you going to allow the Discount Tires that already have monument signs to keep them?
All the Discount Tire locations that already have existing ground signs will keep them. And it's not that they won't pursue other ground signs in other locations where they're allowed. They're specifically not choosing to do a ground sign here because the fact that they are allowed to technically have 4 wall signs by code and a monument sign and all the other different signs that Brian had mentioned that was in excess of, I believe, 600 or 700 square feet. It was an absorbent amount of signage that they weren't utilizing, and they specifically chose to only go with the 3 wall signs to show that we're not looking for signage clutter.
Right, but you could comply with our zoning ordinance by using a monument sign, and you're choosing not to, and you're choosing to fight our ordinance. Is that what I'm hearing? Because you could comply and be in alignment with what other Discount Tire stores have done across the country, but you're choosing not to.
Are you indicating that there are Discount Tire stores across the country that have no other wall signage and only have a ground sign?
There are locations throughout this country that only allow monument signs, and there are Discount Tires that have complied with local sign ordinances. So I'm just trying to clarify, because you have options to comply with our zoning code, and you just said you're choosing not to use them.
Madam Chairman, I'm not familiar with any location in Discount Tire nationwide that does not have wall signage where a monument was used. I'm not saying that they're not out there. I personally have not worked on any project or have been aware of any project where that may be the case. We're just only choosing not to use that sign, just because we have the allowance of the 3 wall signs.
Okay, thank you so much. Are there other questions for the applicant? Commissioner Stressman?
Yes, Madam Chairman. Just so it's clear in my head, we're roughly, the applicant is asking for roughly 3 signs on the facades totaling about just under 300 square feet, each one being about 98 square feet. Is that correct? Yet what we're suggesting to the applicant is a band sign up to 3 feet in height. But can that band sign stretch from wall to wall on each facade? So what are the lengths of the walls on these facades?
I think one is 117 square, where's
Right,
that?
one is 117.
It's in our packet.
Just for clarification, the area is not being considered under the variance. They can comply with our area for the signs. It's merely the height for a
I
band
know,
sign.
but I'm just trying to visualize in my head, we can have a sign, or they can have a sign that's 3 feet tall by the entire length of the facade, correct?
Yes,
99 square feet they can have on the north and south walls.
Okay,
On the north wall, they could actually display 99 square feet there as a band sign, 3 feet in height. They can also put a wall sign up 32 square feet. We don't regulate the height there. So they could put one of these signs on that north wall, but they're not proposing to do any signage on that wall. You follow me on
okay.
that?
Yeah, I'm just thinking about the total square foot of signage.
What are the
it's like
dimensions of the
100
building is what he's asking.
Yeah, the building, I think, is 100, isn't the building, Jennifer, 112 feet long?
It's 117 foot long facing Mission Street and 64 that's facing Olympic Drive.
So they could feasibly have a sign 117 feet by 3 foot tall on that facade,
And on the back.
on,
In the back.
well, on the Mission
And on
Street
the back,
side.
right?
And then on the
Yes.
north and south. Okay. All right.
Which is 700 square feet in and of itself.
Big sign.
The two.
that would be a big sign.
Mhm.
Are there other questions for the applicant? Okay, seeing that we don't have any more questions, we will now open the,
Jennifer, did you have any further questions?
No, I just wanted to just reiterate again that it's really the letter height that we're asking for a special exception. We're well under the allowable square footage. We're well under the allowable quantity of signs. And we hope that that is taken in consideration, that we're not utilizing everything that you guys are giving us, even though I know we're asking for a favor, a special exception.
Okay. All right, thank you.
test. Okay. I didn't want to bang the gavel
I don't
until
know what the
I.
protocol is here with, when we have this blinking in and out, so I want to just give her an opportunity to
Sure.
speak, so.
Sure. Having no other questions at this time, we're going to open the public hearing for this case. If there is anyone who wishes to speak on this case, please come forward and state your name and address for the record. Do we have anyone on Zoom who would like to speak to us?
No, we do not.
All right, there is no one to speak at the public hearing. I am now going to close the public hearing. Mr. Kinch, do we have any correspondence to share?
Our engineering folks, our DPW just went on file, having no objections, no comment. Same with our Department of Fire Safety.
Okay. Would we like to enter into our findings of fact?
Sure.
All right. All right, here we go. The board shall refer to the applicant's responses to the following questions in accordance with section 154.608B. To obtain a non-use or dimensional variance, the applicant must show practical difficulty by demonstrating that all of the following conditions exist. Number one, that there are exceptional or extraordinary circumstances or conditions applying to the property in question or to the intended use of the property that do not apply generally to other properties or classes or uses in the same zoning district. Exceptional or extraordinary circumstances or conditions normally include exceptional narrowness, shallowness of shape or of a specific property on the effective date of this chapter, exceptional topographic conditions or other extraordinary situation on the land, building, or structure, or use or development of the property immediately adjoining the property in question.
Can I ask a question? I've only been here a year, but it seems to me in the past, isn't there like a motion and then we do this?
No,
We do the finding of facts before the motion?
we can do it either way.
We can do it either way.
We've
Oh,
done it
either
both
way.
ways.
We've done it the other way. Okay. All right. It's not just me. All right.
Prefer, I mean, you could do a motion now, but we've
Okay.
done
Yeah.
it either way.
But but we can do it either way, but we have done it. Okay.
Yes, we,
All right. Because I'm like, I don't remember doing this. Okay. Fair enough.
In terms of this, the only uniqueness that I see compared to the other C5s around it is the uniqueness that's being imposed by the marketing standards of the applicant themselves, and that does not reside with us, that resides with them. So I don't see any uniqueness here in the particular geographic site-related circumstance.
are there any other comments to our fact number one?
This might not hold water, but our new ordinance requires buildings to be very close to the street, which in some cases changes the location of a ground sign and other signage that we do allow, but the logistics of having it there, so I don't know if it's uniqueness for this property because it's one of the first ones we've done close to the street. Next year or 5 years from now, it might not be unique.
Taco Bell. We did,
Yeah.
Taco Bell was under, so we've got
It
quite,
was not under this ordinance. It was done, no, it wasn't under,
It was under the overlay district.
Yeah.
it wasn't under this ordinance. But, I mean, it was done, you're right. It's the only one, it's on a 2-mile street. I would call the second one unique. I mean, by definition of the word unique. Anyway, I'm just offering that up. But I would say that would be the uniqueness in that there might be problems with doing the signage we're suggesting. That's all I'm throwing out there. You can agree with me, not agree with me. All right.
are we,
I would think that a monument sign would fit there, Brian, wouldn't it? And it's still, it's just that the applicant's choosing not to use it, but they did not assert that a monument sign wasn't in fact possible under the ordinance.
Can I ask a question? Does Taco Bell's current signage fit this definition?
Their pylon sign would be non-conforming, but their letters that they have on the building are actually shorter than 3
They also have
feet.
lit signs, right?
Yeah, they have lit signs.
Yeah,
The back-
which would make this unique. So, yeah, I mean, because, they're not conforming to the stuff we have here.
Yeah, they're considered lawful non-conforming. They can display it
Right.
till the end of
Sure.
time. If they change their sign packages or their logos.
Yeah,
those sorts of
it was
things.
raised that they were under this ordinance and they're not. They have
no, absolutely
totally
right.
different signage.
Taco Bell was one of the first that was done close to the street when we did the overlay
Very-
district that had the same.
Very familiar.
Yeah, we had another rebranding that had to conform with the new sign ordinance. Okay, so number
What
2,
was that?
McDonald's. That such a variance is necessary for the preservation and enjoyment of a substantial property right possessed by other properties in the same zoning district and vicinity.
Well, there are some that are lawful non-conforming signage, but should there be any changes, as Brian has pointed out, they would have to change. So they're non-conforming at this point, but their property right would not extend to their ability to make changes in the future. They would have to go with the new code.
Correct. That the variance request is not one where the specific conditions pertaining to the property are so general or recurrent in nature as to make the formulation of a general regulation for such conditions reasonably practicable.
Again, there are lots and lots of examples of businesses, both local and regional and national, that conform to this. So I can't see that there's nothing unique that would not apply to all new developments along Mission Street, and all existing developments should changes that they make cancel out their non-conforming grandfathered use.
That the authorizing of such variance will not be a substantial detriment to adjacent property.
I really can't see how having like 1/8 of the signage they could have would be a detriment to the rest of the people. Now, I do have a question on that. Can they agree? I mean, can they say they're doing this and then throw in a ground sign next week?
Yes.
Okay.
They would still be entitled to do that.
Is there any way we can limit them from that?
I don't know.
Okay.
It's one of their rights.
So, but they can't, can they offer up, we're going to do this and we won't do that and we give up our right to do that?
You have to demonstrate
That'd be
that
under-
there's some level of, you have to go through the process that you're going through here now, only looking at that height. The detriment to the adjoining property is at some point when they develop that site, they're going to be held to the same standards that we're holding the Discount Tire folks to, which is the 3 feet if they're going to install a band sign.
I know I'm going far afield here, but like under contract zoning, they can't say, we'll
Yeah.
do this and
We
we'll
don't-
never do that.
Yeah, we don't have that anymore.
No.
Yeah. What?
We don't have the contract.
In the city? Will we get rid of it in the last ordinance?
Yeah.
Oh,
it went
okay.
away.
Let's say we used to have it. Okay.
Yeah.
And
That one I missed.
any of the adjacent businesses that might be sold or need to rebrand or want to update their own signage still have to follow our existing code. So number 5, the authorizing the variance will not materially impair the purposes of this chapter or the public interest. Well, I'd just like to point out that, go ahead, Vice Chair Orlick, while I find my notes.
Well, I always look at public interest as defined by what the zoning code calls for, and people therefore that conform to that public interest are automatically on good grace. And there are a number of public interest meeting options that this applicant would have, the same ones that other applicants would have should they choose to use them.
And I think, part of our enhanced sign ordinance package is to give businesses many options for wayfinding, for branding, and methods to comply. And it was even mentioned in the application that if we don't grant the variance, then, they'll comply. They'll fit their sign into what we allow here. And so the last finding of fact is that the need for the variance is not created by any action of the applicant or previous owner. And here, I would say the need for the variance is entirely created by the applicant because they're imposing, they want our zoning code to conform to their national brand standards.
And in the applicant's response to number 6, national branding was not specific to this site to force a variance. It is a condition unique to this municipality. Well, so be it, Our job as a zoning board is to conform to things that are in our code, and if they're unique, so be it. If they aren't, so be it. It's not our job to mandate or to respect national standards.
And we are hardly the only municipality in this country that has specific sign ordinances and requirements, and many are much more stringent than what our zoning code has allowed for businesses. So we've gone through the finding of fact. We can discuss, and if anyone is ready to present the motion, I'm ready to hear the motion.
Discuss after the motion or before?
You can discuss before and you can discuss after.
I just want to say my position originally was if they're requesting much less than they can have, but if there's no way to hold them to that, I have a problem. I thought that it seemed pretty reasonable that they wanted to have 3 small signs and they could have signs all over the place. And that would be much more attractive to have 3 reasonably placed signs than have all the signs that they could possibly have, which is what a lot of places do. I thought that we could somehow, but if we do this, they could still walk in and put all those other things in.
Yes.
And so without that guarantee, I mean, yeah, I thought they had a very reasonable request, but if there's no way to hold them to that request, because I would be all for it if that's all the signage they were going to have. I would approve it in a minute.
But because, as long as they would not violate the total square footage of signage on the property, they can go ahead and do whatever
That's
the
not
ordinance
even,
permits.
total square footage isn't even a thing, right? Yeah. They can have
Yep.
infinite.
Okay.
Is there additional discussion? If not, I'll call for the motion.
I move to approve case number ZBA 2302 filed by Jennifer Wolf from It's Permittable on behalf of Discount Tire, seeking a variance to increase the height of band sites being proposed on their location from 3 foot to 5.7 3/8 height.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion on the motion? I'll again remind everyone that all our motions are presented in the positive. That does not mean that the motion maker is in favor of the motion. If there's no further discussion, I will call for a vote. All in favor of this motion, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, say no.
No.
No. The noes have it. This motion fails. At this time, we will provide the rationale why the variance could not be granted. I can do that. Vice Chair Orlick, would you like to go through and provide the rationale?
Well, I think we did that.
Did that with the finding of
Yeah, we
fact?
did that with finding of fact. That's automatically a rationale. If it's not, then you got real problems.
Then we're in trouble. All right. So to summarize, the applicant could not meet all the requirements that we have in place for a variance to be granted. So the motion fails. Let's see, where are we in our agenda? Old business, the next item on our agenda is old business. Mr. Kinch, do you have anything to present to the board?
Nothing to report under old business.
The next item on the agenda is new business. Mr. Kinch, do you have any new business for us?
Laura's put together a schedule for the proposed 2024 meeting dates. We'll have you look at that, and if we're comfortable with that, we'll get that up on our website. Given that we're only meeting maybe once a year, it seems like, so. I guess we get a motion for that.
Yes, we will. I would like to entertain a motion to accept our 2024 meeting schedule.
Move to accept the 2024 meeting schedule for the Zoning Board of Appeals.
Is there, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor of accepting our 2024 meeting schedule, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Thank you. We have a meeting schedule for 2024. Mr. Kinch, do we have anything else for the board tonight?
I don't have anything, nothing.
Nothing further. I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
A second.
Support.
All in favor of adjourning, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
The August 23rd, 2023 City of Mount Pleasant Zoning Board of Appeals is now adjourned.